The cost of goods are expected to skyrocket soon, and it's all thanks to Bidenomics. So the White House has repeatedly touted that the economy is in such great shape now because of this administration. They blame former President Donald Trump for supposedly leaving the economy in a tailspin toward the end of his term. However, with them in charge, inflation is supposedly going down together with our expenses, something that many Americans don't agree with, as inflation still continues to raise the price of everything, especially when it comes to the cost of food. Some experts believe that the price of goods will almost double by the year 2025, just a few months away from where we are right now. Now with that, it's expected that more Americans will struggle right after we deal with the 2024 presidential elections. Inflation is still one of the biggest concerns for voters, and it's normal to see why. Prices have seemingly gone out of control to a point where surveys, they're now showing that inflation is overshadowing illegal immigration, crime, and even corruption.
Visit just about any restaurant or store and you'll hear people talking about inflation. In the Evergreen Cafe inside this Billings Ace hardware store is no exception.
Our food costs have increased by about 175%. Everything from dairy, especially meat and poultry, has been a huge factor. Grocery items such as fruits and vegetables.
Andrew Lochner and his wife have owned this cafe for the past 2 years and have seen the costs go up significantly. That's one reason the business played host to a roundtable discussion on the topic held by Senator Steve Daines.
I think some of these massive spending and tax bills contribute to what's going on with the inflation.
According to the senator's office, the consumer price index rose 3.5% in March, and inflation has been on the rise significantly ever since COVID. According to the Joint Economic Committee, the average Montana household has spent $26,000 more due to inflation since January of 2021. Breaking down the numbers even further, that equates to $253 more a month on housing, $141 more per month on energy costs, and $142 a month more on food.
So here's something that the critics of the Biden administration has said. It's been more than 3 years since the health crisis. They can't continue to use this as an excuse as to why costs continue to shoot up. Some say that the government has been using taxpayer money like there's no tomorrow, with billions of dollars being sent across the globe, which is exactly what Senator Daines has been saying about the situation. And this isn't the news that President Joe Biden wants with the economy, because at this point, there's no way he can continue to blame the former administration. But he did find someone else as a scapegoat. This time, he's pinned the target on corporations. In a Super Bowl ad, the president talked about a common economic change during times of high inflation.
Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. A bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging you just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
He talked about shrinkflation, where prices stay the same with consumers like you and me, but we're getting less for our money. He said that he's just like us and that he enjoys a snack or two while watching a big game. Do you guys think that Joe Biden's just like me and you? Now, the problem, according to him, is that sports drinks bottles, they're getting smaller, and bags of chips, they now have more air compared to chips. He even talked about ice cream cartons shrinking in size. And we all know that President Biden loves his ice cream. He blasted companies that are doing this and said that businesses should be doing the right thing. He clearly does not know how to run businesses. So he admits that the costs are going up because consumers are getting less. And it's all happening under his term. But of course, he has to deflect the blame elsewhere because it's not going to help him in November. That's going to be a little bit tough, given that just a day after he bragged that his blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America is working, the GDP numbers came out. And, well, let's just say that his blueprint is not working as well as he thought. Growth is now slowing as the economy grew at just 1.6% in the first quarter. It was at 4.9% in the last year's third quarter and 3.4% in the fourth.
So, how did the economy do to start the year?
Well, gross domestic product, that's the tally of goods and services sold in the economy, actually grew by 1.6% annualized in the first 3 months of the year. This was lower than expectations. Most economists thought there would be 2.4, 2.5%. If you recall last year, the year when everybody thought we were going to see a recession, the economy overperformed. We grew by 2.5% last year. The first 3 months of this year looks like an underperformance so far.
Jill, what's expected for the rest of the year?
Well, I know of this disappointing first 3 months. We have to remember, first of all, there are 2 more revisions to this same data, so it could go up from here.
To make matters worse, the personal consumption expenditures price index surged at 3.7% in the first quarter. That's the PCE, which even excludes food and energy. This means that interest rates will be kept higher for longer, even though we're being told late last year that a pivot was coming in 2024, which makes it easy to see why voters are concerned about inflation. And it's not just one party. A majority of Republican, Democrat, and even independent voters are saying that inflation is becoming a bigger problem nowadays. A recent poll from Harvard shows that inflation is a top concern for 58% of Democrats, 63% of independents, and 76% of Republicans. But don't worry though, the United States is absolutely fine. In fact, the only problem that our country has is our perspective on the economy, and that the right-wing propaganda is to blame for this huge misconception, because some analysts believe that the economy has never been better. Former Representative Joe Scarborough had a meltdown on MSNBC when he talked about how Republicans talk about our country. He says that the right-wing media outlets are trying to make our country look bad when the reality is that we're doing great. Here's a few things that he said. He said that America is stronger and more powerful than ever before. He added that the economy is stronger and more powerful than ever before as well. So if you believe that the country has changed and that prices are skyrocketing, then you are the problem. You are the problem because you are fed a steady stream of hate America first rhetoric. Now, do any of you guys agree with Scarborough? Because he seems to actually believe that we're somehow now better off today compared to just a few years ago. And if you disagree with him, then you're agreeing with the pro-Russian propaganda. I'm not sure how Russia got into the conversation here, but that's what he said. Now, one of the things that the White House usually points out to us when it comes to the economy would be the jobs numbers. Well, real median wages are now going down again. They also can't use the job numbers as a shield anymore because most of the new jobs being created are either part-time or government jobs. All of this has led critics of the Biden administration to criticize him openly. Senator Rick Scott calls his leadership a failure and says that our country has been at a decline ever since he took office. He highlights that layoffs are happening everywhere and Americans are struggling under Biden's term. And just like I said earlier, Scott points to reckless government spending, which has pushed our debt to almost $35 trillion. While we think about what caused the strain on the American people, one has to wonder how all of this could be solved. Former President Donald Trump had 3 words that he says is the answer to straightening our economy. Those words are drill, baby, drill. Do you agree that an energy independent America will thrive and regain its footing as the world's biggest superpower? Or is it now just a little bit too late? Now, as always, you guys are free to your own opinions. I just want to inform you of the truth. Now, before I go, I want to thank you all so much for hitting the like button. Thank you as always for sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you on the next one.